Hi, in this video I'll be talking to you about a brand new feature we have launched called multi-stamping. This feature will make your documentation on the Leegality platform even more seamless. This video is broken into three parts. In the first part, I will take you through the current stamping process on the Leegality platform. Then I'll show you a demo of the multi-stamping feature and describe to you its concept. And third, I will deep dive into this feature and show you its ins and outs. So currently in the Leegality application, stamping works like this. We take one stamp paper of a fixed denomination like rupees 100 as you see on the left and combine many of those into what we call a stamp series as you see on the right. Now let's suppose you are signing a document and you want to use one stamp paper of rupees 100. In such a case, we take one stamp paper from this series and attach it to your document. There are pros and cons to the current stamping process. The pro is that it's very straightforward. In cases where there's a fixed stamp duty to be paid, then you know what the stamp duty is and you create a stamp series of that amount. So this works very well for documents such as affidavits and declarations. The scenario where the current stamping process does not work very well is when the stamp duty paid is variable depending upon the value of the document. So an example of this is a loan agreement, which may, let's say, hypothetically attract a stamp duty of 5%. So in that case, if the loan amount being sanctioned is different, then the stamp duty will also be different. So in such a case, what you want is something to account for this variable stamp duty, and this is what this newly launched multi-stamping feature allows you to do. So to best understand how multi-stamping works and the flow you're going to have when using it, let's dive right into a demo. So here I am on the dashboard page of my Leegality account. I will now go to new document and click and upload whatever document I want to get signed. So this is like a document I have here. The next thing you'll see is this use stamp toggle. So yes, I want to use a stamp and I want to use something called a stamp group. So I'll be going into more detail on what stamp groups are later in this video. But for now, let's just enable this and select the stamp group I want. So I want to use this one stamp group I'd created earlier. And let's say I want to enter a stamp duty of 650. So that's it. That's all I had to do. These are the people who are going to get the signing link. So I'm fine with this. This is where it gets interesting. So as you'll see, I entered the stamp duty of 650 rupees. So I can see that a stamp paper 50 has been attached to my document. So if I want to see what other stamp papers have been attached, because there have been more, I will click here. So you see another 50 rupee stamp paper has been uploaded. I want to see all of them. So yeah. So now I've opened all the stamp papers that are attached to this document. You'll see that there are 3 stamp papers of rupees 50. So that's 150. And then there's one of 500. And all in all, that totals up to 650. So the interesting thing is that in the earlier stamping process, you could attach only stamp paper of one denomination. Now using multi-stamping, you can combine stamp papers of various denominations to create your variable stamp duty. So how did that work? It worked because when we were creating the document, we selected something called stamp group. A stamp group is what its name says. It's essentially a group of stamp series of one state inside one envelope. So as you can see, in front of me I have a stamp group. It contains one stamp series of rupees 100 and another stamp series of rupees 500. Taking a simple example of how stamp groups work, let's suppose you have a document on the left and you've selected a stamp group on the right and you want to attach stamp papers of rupees 600. So in this case, we will study what's inside the stamp group and attach one paper of 100 and one paper of 500. In another example, you want to attach stamp papers of rupees 1100. So you've selected the same stamp group. In this case, we will take 2 papers of 500 and one paper of 100 rupees to attach to your document. So now we are in the third part of the video where I'll be diving deep into what stamp groups are. So, like I've already mentioned, stamp group is essentially an envelope inside which you store stamp series of various denominations but of the same state. So, as you can see in front of me right now, I have a stamp group which contains a stamp series of 100 and of 500, but both of these have to be of the same state. So, for example, both of these can be Maharashtra. The other thing to keep in mind is that these stamp groups are not independent, which means that a series can be part of multiple stamp groups as long as the series are of the same state. So, as you can see in front of me right now, this is absolutely okay. Here, the second series, the stamp series of rupees 500, is in 3 groups, and that's allowed. To understand how stamp groups are created, let's again dive into the dashboard. On the main page, you click on stamps on the left hand panel. Here you navigate to groups and you click on the new stamp group button. Here you can assign a name for your group. You can select the state for which you want to create it. Do note that this drop down list only reflects the states for which you already have stamp series. So if I want to add Delhi over here, I'll first have to create a stamp series for Delhi. But today I'm creating a stamp group for Maharashtra. So I click on this. I can prescribe the maximum limit of stamp value that's allowed to be pulled from the stamp group. So today I'm going to specify 8000, and then I can select which stamp series I want. And after this I click create. So my stamp group has gotten created. In future, if you want to edit your stamp group, you can come here and click edit. Do note that while editing, you cannot change the state of your group. You can change the name, you can change the maximum value allowed. You can select or deselect any stamp series for that state, but you cannot change the state. Some additional points to note about stamp groups. Like I've already mentioned, stamp groups need to be of the same state. The other is the maximum stamp value that you can generate from a stamp group is rupees 10 lakhs. The third is that in the current version of the application, we do not allow deletion of stamp groups. And the fourth is that the stamps that will be affixed in your document will be dependent on the series contained inside the stamp group. So let's suppose you want to attach a stamp paper of rupees 50, but the lowest denomination in the stamp group is of rupees 200. In that case, we'll attach the stamp paper of rupees 200. So this is a good segue for me to talk a bit about how the multi-stamping algorithm works. So let's take an example. You want to attach stamp papers of rupees 650, and you have selected a stamp group of Maharashtra which has stamp series of rupees 500, 100 and 50 in it. So the first combination is one paper of 500 and two papers of 100. This is not optimal because the total will come to about 700, which results in a waste of 550 rupees. The second combination is attaching two papers of 500. This is really not optimal because the total value then attached would be rupees 1000 when you only want rupees 650 to be attached. And the third combination is one paper of 500, one paper of 100 and one of 50. The stamping algorithm works such that it will pick the third combination. And this is because it follows two principles. The first is that it tries to use stamps value of the lowest possible value. So which means that when you selected that you wanted stamp papers of 650, it will pick whatever combination results in the stamp value of 650. So the other principle the algorithm follows is minimizing the number of papers that are used. This is to ensure that it shouldn't happen that, let's say, 50 stamp papers get attached to your document when maybe the job could have been done with 4. Thank you for watching this video on multi-stamping. We hope this feature will allow you to use a platform in more ways. If you want to know more details about how Leegality can help you please get in touch.